I have done a lot of videos about Palantir over the past year because I think it is one of the most transformational companies that I've ever seen, and I'm happy and excited to be a shareholder of this company. This video right here, I think, is going to be one of the most important videos on Palantir that I've made or that I will ever make. Now, I've interviewed a lot of people that are in the world of Palantir, data, analytics, AI, and those interviews have done, amazing in terms of the community that they've been able to create, the exposure it's been able to give around these concepts that Palantir talks about. But this video, I think, is going to be one of the most important ones. And the reason for that is because the article that just came out from mainstream media, the Washington Post, that covered what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and what Palantir's role is in that crisis, establishes to me that at the end of the day, I'm investing in a company that's creating a technology that actually is changing the world. Now, will that be financially profitable? Will that return capital to shareholders? Will that appreciate the share price over the next 10 years? I can't definitively say yes or no to any of those questions. What I can say is that at a $14 billion market cap, when you find a company and you start to do the level of due diligence that I've been able to do, that the community's been able to do, to see what this company is actually doing, where it's actually being used, how it's actually developing a sustainable technological advantage and moat that is so highly differentiated from the rest of the world, you start to get a little bit more excited, not only about your investment, but the impact that your investment is having on the world. Before I get into this article, 2022 was crazy for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons it was crazy is because in February, a dictator that we thought would not do the thing that he was going to inevitably do, did the thing that he was always going to do. In this new world where we take freedom for granted, where we take free speech for granted, where we take the ability for us to pursue our own liberties for granted, there are parts of the world where you can't wear certain shirts to the World Cup, where you can't say certain things because they don't have established freedoms indoctrinated through the concept of their democracy because they are not democracies. And we have basically said, well, the world's peaceful, nothing's going to happen. But the world's not peaceful and things do happen. And as a result of that, my question is, what are the companies, what are the institutions, what are the organizations that are dealing with the level of instability that we have in the world? And Palantir happens to be one of them. I want to go through this article, really talk about what is going on and discuss what is making me a little bit more happier and excited to be a shareholder, given what I'm seeing is Palantir's use case in the real world. So let's start off with this article and we'll get a little bit deeper into it. 2 Ukrainian military officers peer at a laptop computer operated by a Ukrainian technician using software provided by the American technology company Palantir. On the screen are detailed digital maps of the battlefield at Bakhmut, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, in eastern Ukraine, overlaid with other targeting intelligence, most of it obtained from commercial satellites. As we lean closer, we can see jagged trenches of the Bakhmut front where Russian and Ukrainian forces are separated by a few hundred yards in the bloodiest battles of war. This is real stuff. People are living and dying because of this. A click of the computer mouse displays thermal images of Russian and Ukrainian artillery fire. Another click shows a Russian tank marked with a Z seen through a picket fence, an image uploaded by a Ukrainian spy on the ground. Now, what does Alex Karp have to say about this? The power of advanced algorithmic warfare systems is now so great that it equates to having tactical nuclear weapons against an adversary with only conventional ones, explains Alex Karp, Chief Executive of Palantir. The general public tends to underestimate this, or adversaries no longer do. Already, that part of the article is a part I wanted to talk about and a part that I think is so incredibly important. And we're going to watch a little video on Karp speaking about this exact concept in a second. Advanced algorithmic warfare against your adversaries that have higher tactical nuclear weapons almost levels the playing ground if you don't have those nuclear weapons, which Ukraine doesn't. Why does it level the playing ground? Because the tech is that good. That's it. That's the argument. It's not Snowflake. It's not Databricks. It's not Datadogs. It's the tech from Palantir giving Ukraine the software capabilities of a tactical nuclear weapon. I mean, that is just absolutely incredible to think that company is doing this. The senior Ukrainian officer in the Kyiv demonstration says, "For us, it's a matter of survival." Now, he tells me bluntly, our goal is to maximize target acquisitions. To protect his identity, he stripped his unit insignia and other markings from his camouflage uniform before he demonstrated the technology. The other officer says, who was a computer specialist in peacetime, says, as she looks at the imagery of the Russian invaders on a day when the drones are savaging civilian targets in Odessa and Ukraine's southern coast, she mutters a wish for revenge and a hope that Ukraine will emerge from the war as a tech power. Although the Ukrainians now depend on technology to help from America, she says by the end of the war, we will be selling software to Palantir. I mean, think of that right there before we go into it. How aspirational is it that a computer scientist in Ukraine that is depending on technology from Palantir is so inspired by the technology that is allowing them to actually have a fighting chance against this behemoth of Russia, that she feels one day, you know what, Ukraine's not going to be in this position. One day Ukraine's going to have the technology that we sell to Palantir, because we will not let ourselves become so technologically disadvantaged to get taken over by another nation that we aren't even able to protect our own sovereignty with our own software. That is what is illuminating my mind a bit more to what Palantir is doing. The ability to protect a nation's sovereignty, one of the most important concepts of a nation in the first place, that you have the ability to have your own independence, is what has created the biggest conflicts in the world, China, Taiwan, Israel, Palestine, is something that is being saved, in a sense, by Palantir as a nation gets invaded. Let's go a little bit more further down into the article. I met with a senior team from Palantir that was visiting its Kyiv office with the approval of Karp, the CEO. They agreed to show me some of the company's technology close to the firing line. The result is a detailed look at what may be a revolution in warfare, in which a software platform allows U.S. allies to use the ubiquitous, unstoppable sensors that surround every potential battlefield to truly create a lethal kill chain. Now, let me make it very clear. I'm not a fan of war. I don't want people to die. I would much rather 100 out of 100 times not have Russia invaded Ukraine and not have this war happen. That is not the argument. And when someone says, oh, you're a Palantir shareholder, you buy defense contracts because you want war, that person is an idiot. No one wants war. No one wants to see people die. The problem is that a lot of these times war is inevitable. It doesn't matter if I want war or if I don't want war. It doesn't matter if Alex Karp wants war. What matters is, does Putin think that he can invade Ukraine and take it over? And the problem, the historicity we've seen over time, is that dictators have a abnormal sense of narcissism where they feel they can do these horrible things to people in the name of their own good, in the name of their own nation, in the name of their own country. These things are embedded within the human nature of our society, and it's been proven time and time again. So it's not a question of if you want war or not. It's a question of, is it happening, and do you have an effective response? No one wanted a pandemic. But Palantir had the vaccine distribution capabilities to actually make sure that some people who wanted the vaccine got the vaccine, because they were able to respond. They were able to be reactive to something that was inevitable, which was a pandemic at the end of the day. And regardless of if it's inevitable or not, it happened. You have to react to it at the end of the day. The critics have argued that Palantir's powerful software has been misused by the government agencies to violate privacy or questionable ends. For example, the Post wrote in 2019 that Palantir software was used by ICE to help track undocumented immigrants. Tech community activists have asked whether Palantir is too close to the US government and can see too much with its tools. Karp responded to criticism of the company in an email to me last week. It says, Silicon Valley screaming at us for over a decade did not make the world any less dangerous. We built software products that made America and its allies stronger, and we are proud of that, which is pretty much exactly what I just said. Silicon Valley screaming while they're monetizing all your data and all your attention so they can sell trillions of dollars worth of advertisements does not make the world any less dangerous, and quite frankly, does not do anything to solve the danger in the world by seeing another ad for a water bottle on Facebook. Actually, are running to the metaverse, as Karp would say. Actually solving these problems means you've got to build software products that defend the West, that defend Western freedoms, that defend democracy. Ukraine has shifted the political landscape in Silicon Valley. For Karp and other many technology CEOs, this is the good war that has led companies to use their tools aggressively. This public-private partnership is one of the keys to Ukraine's success, because, make no mistake about it, Ukraine is successful right now. But it obscures many important questions. How dependent should countries be on entrepreneurs whose policy views could change? We can applaud the use of these tools in good wars, but what about bad ones? And what about private tools being turned against the governments that we help create? All of these questions are incredibly important. None of these questions should be taken away by the base side. But the important thing to understand is that that technology exists, and we at least have the ability to do something with that technology when things go bad. Karp says here, this is algorithmic warfare. Using a digital model of the battlefield, commanders can penetrate the notorious fog of war. By applying AI to analyze sensor data, NATO advisors outside of Ukraine can quickly answer the essential questions of combat. Where are the allied forces? Where is the enemy? Which weapons will be the most effective against enemy positions? Can they deliver the precise enemy location information to Ukraine commanders in the field? And after action, can they assess whether their intelligence was accurate to update the system? Data, as goes on to the next sentence, is the power for the new engine of war, and the company that can operationalize that data, i.e. Palantir, is the company that is ultimately going to win at the end of the day. The last thing I'll say here is that Palantir uses a tool called Meta Constellation. Ukraine and its allies can see what commercial data is currently available about a given battle space. This is using satellites that are in the sky and edge AI to articulate real data in real time. The available data includes a surprisingly wide array, from traditional optical pictures to synthetic aperture radar that can see through clouds, through thermal images, that can detect artillery or missile fire, and etc. I mean, these things at the end of the day, that's the end of the article. We're going to go into one video to end out this video is incredible to me. The idea that you can use satellites and create real-time data and in that moment track that that's a Russian tank, that's how we can defeat that Russian tank. And the only reason we can do it is because we've got software at the intersection of AI, at the intersection of a company that's actually been able to experiment with this stuff and build this stuff for the past 15 years to create the framework for a company in a critical operational moment to use that software to actually get the job done. When CARP met Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, back in June, we all thought that Palantir may be working with Ukraine. This is confirmation, this article, this is why this video is so important, that this is exactly what's being done, and it goes very deep in the article about how it's being done and why it's being done and how it's successfully being done. As a shareholder, at the end of the day, you're betting on a company that you think can be important. If you're in this for a 5, 10x, if you're in this for, a 20x, we don't know if those returns are going to happen, but the question to me is, where would you rather put your money? Where would you rather want to bet? Yes, stock-based compensation and dilution. There's a lot of this stuff that matters. I get it. But the fundamental nature of what is being done to me is what is important at this stage, given how small the valuation is right now. And I think a lot of those other things can be ironed out. And one of the things about Karp is that he's been steadfast on this idea that the world is messy, the world is chaotic. And the question is, how do we deal with that chaotic world? And one of those ways at the end of the day is to use software, is to operationalize data, is to make the world more safer by giving smaller countries the ability to act as if they have nuclear weapons, even though they don't. I mean, just the fathoming of that concept, that could happen, to me signals that the government business for Palantir could reach upwards of $100 billion in market capitalization. It could be worth that much if the world, contingent upon, continues to be messy, continues to be unstable, and their software continues to be the backbone infrastructure of any country that doesn't have a nuclear weapon, which there's only 9 that do, that could potentially use the software, even not in a wartime context, but in just the preparation for something bad that could happen, having it in the backlog, making sure that it's there. There is a very big opportunity that the government business for Palantir is gigantic. We don't know if that's going to happen, but when you see stuff like this, it at least lets you make a calculated bet that maybe it could happen. And then you take it on to commercial, you put all that stuff together, it shows that Palantir could potentially become a very powerful company. Here's Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the first investors of Palantir, comparing Karp to Steve Jobs by a channel called Palantir Bite Size. Shout out to them. They're a great channel. And let's listen to what Karp says about where the world is going.
Oh, there was a guy named Steve Jobs, and he broke the number one rule of business is he made products, not that the customer was demanding. He made this product and assumed if I make it, they will come. I kind of get that sense that you guys do that here at Palantir too, and I know that what a game changer Foundry was for you. Is there something else out there in the pipeline I don't know about that you could, I'm sure there is, but that you could disclose so I can think out a few years ahead of time?
There's the war products, which are like literally take small countries and make them into juggernauts. Like give everybody a slingshot. Every small country gets the power slingshot Palantir and can slay the monster coming to attack them. And there's like a number of them, and they're operationally useful and very.
I think we're watching one of them. It's not so small, but
yeah. Well, yeah, and it's having an enormous impact. And then there's the further uses of Foundry, which are really just at the beginning, actually using Foundry operationally. And there's Apollo. So like we're in a world where the outside organizations are disjoined and disjuncted and need vertical and horizontal integration to interact with their clients and with regulators and with supply chains. They have the same exact problem with software on the inside, which is how we actually have grown from a tiny company with, not growing headcount, but because we maintain our software with a product. Every single company, every single government in the world will essentially have to build something like this or buy it from us. And it's a very, very hard product to build. And that product is, like many of our products, kind of looks very not sexy in the beginning, but then powers a lot of the action.
That's it. That's the video. At the end of the day, I think Palantir is doing some amazing things. We'll see how things play out. We'll see where the tech goes in the future. But there's certain tech companies I want to bet on, and there's certain tech companies I don't think are that special or important. Palantir is one of those tech companies that I think is going to be very special and hopefully has a lot of share capital appreciation as well. Hopefully, we make a lot of money off this. But in the meantime, when we don't know if we will, where do you want to place your bets? I'll place my bets with Palantir. Thanks so much for listening, watching. Look forward to your comments. I'll see you in the next one.